Okay, thanks everybody. Please take your seats. We want to start on time to make sure that we have the right program for all of you. Thanks for being here. I give the word to our commercial director for Belgium and Luxembourg, who will kick off this spectacular day. Steve, go ahead.
If I can get my... Perfect, thanks. Thank you, Anne. Indeed, as country manager for Belgium, I wish you all a very warm welcome. I will do a small introduction in Dutch, and then we will do the press conference as well as the Q&A section in English. Ik zou willen beginnen natuurlijk vandaag om jullie allemaal van harte welkom te heten en vooral al onze aanwezigen. In eerste instantie heer burgemeester Jan Seijnhaven, welkom. Emmanuel Faber, CEO van Danone, welkom, bienvenue. En dan natuurlijk ook Sue Garfitt, General Manager van Alpro. En alle journalisten hier aanwezig, fysiek, maar ook digitaal via onze livestream. Het is voor mij een enorme eer en ik sta hier ook met heel veel trots om jullie uit naam van Alpro te mogen verwelkomen in onze fabriek hier in Wevelgem. En dit ter gelegenheid van de 40ste verjaardag van ons merk. Jullie weten allemaal, het merk Alpro heeft zijn roots binnen België. Het is effectief hier in West-Vlaanderen dat het merk Alpro 40 jaar geleden het levenslicht heeft gezien. En we hebben eigenlijk een enorme reis doorgemaakt tijdens die periode van 40 jaar. We zijn begonnen in een niche-segment van sojaproducten en we zijn uitgegroeid tot een zeer breed, gevarieerd, vooral ook lekker assortiment van plantaardige voeding en drinks, die eigenlijk op de dag van vandaag een essentieel onderdeel zijn geworden van een gezonde en een duurzame manier van in het leven te staan en dit voor al onze consumenten wereldwijd. Onze federaal minister van Werk, Economie en Consumentenzaken, Nathalie Muilen, had hier vandaag ook graag bij geweest, maar ja, goed, omwille van andere verplichtingen heeft zij toch moeten cancelen. Nu, zij wou wel haar erkentelijkheid voor deze speciale dag en deze milestone uitdrukken en dan op een zekere afstand met ons vieren. En daarom heeft ze deze kleine video ingeblikt die ik voorstel dat we eventjes bekijken.
Dames en heren, we zijn hier vandaag al dan niet virtueel bijeen om het 40-jarige bestaan van Alpro te vieren en terug te blikken op de voorbije 40 jaar. 40 jaar van leiderschap in de plantaardige sector, 40 jaar van continue innovatie, 40 jaar van vooruitgang op het vlak van duurzaamheid. Jullie mogen enorm trots zijn op wat er de voorbije 40 jaar verwezenlijkt is. Alpro is een van de eerste bedrijven die plantaardige voeding op de markt bracht. Ondertussen zijn jullie uitgegroeid tot een belangrijke wereldspeler op dit vlak. Het bedrijf slaagde erin om de niche sojaproducten uit te bouwen tot een breed aanbod aan plantaardige producten. Dit is een bijzondere prestatie die zeker in de verf mag worden gezet. Ook wat betreft het investeren in duurzame innovatie en duurzame economie zijn jullie een voorbeeld voor velen. Alpro bewijst dat economische en ecologische duurzaamheid niet tegenstrijdig zijn aan elkaar. Het is perfect mogelijk om zaken doen en economische belangen efficiënt te laten samengaan met een duurzame aandacht voor het leefmilieu. Het breed gamma aan plantaardige producten, gericht op intoleranties en allergieën, is vandaag onmisbaar op het bord van zowel de Belgische als internationale consument. Verder wil ik iedereen bedanken voor de inspanningen geleverd om de coronamaatregelen na te leven. De voorbije coronaperiode is niet evident geweest, maar Alpro heeft de crisis met glans doorstaan. Ik wil dan ook graag de meer dan 1400 werknemers feliciteren en bedanken voor de inzet. Dames en heren, vandaag kijk ik samen met jullie uit naar de volgende mijlpalen en innovaties, zoals het nieuwe Health and Sustainability actieplan dat vandaag werd gelanceerd. Zo kan Alpro blijven bijdragen aan een groeiende en duurzame plantaardige toekomst tegen 2025. Van harte proficiat en veel succes met de toekomstige uitdagingen en innovaties. Op naar nog eens minstens 40 jaar.
Wow, what a great words. Looking forward to the upcoming 40 years. That's really what we have in mind. That's also what our CEO, General Manager for Alpro, Sue Garfitt, will explain to you. What did we do already? What did we achieve over the past 40 years? And also, what do we look forward to? So after Sue, her presentation, she will give the word to our CEO of Danone, Emmanuel Faber. Unique moment to have you with us. Thank you for that. Keep your questions for after that plenary session. There are some virtual colleagues also attending this session. We also take a few questions from them. After that, we go to the factory tour, and then there will be availability of the two responsibles of Alpro and Danone for further interviews. So, Sue, give you the mic.
Hopefully this will work. Yes, it does. What a glorious day. How delighted to see you all. So I'm going to say something in Dutch, so hopefully for those of you who will understand my Flemish. Goedemorgen allemaal. Hartelijk welkom. Bedankt om hier te zijn. En in tijd waarin samenkomen niet evident is. Het is een heel speciaal moment om Alpro's 40th vestige verjaardag te vieren in. En ik ben trots om het te zeggen, de grootste fabriek voor plantaardige voeding in Europa. Un peu en français maintenant, parce que je dois pratiquer un peu. Alors, bonjour à tout le monde, bienvenue. Je tiens à vous remercier d'être ici aujourd'hui, à un moment qui n'est pas simple de se réunir. C'est un moment spécial pour célébrer le 40e anniversaire d'Alpro. Dans ce qui est, je suis fière de le dire, la plus grande usine végétale basée en Europe. So I'm delighted to have you here. I will speak now in English. I'm delighted to have you here. What a privilege it is to welcome you. And I'm very pleased that despite the circumstances that we find ourselves in, that you've all been able to come here today and we've been able to manage this gathering. So Alpro was one of the first companies worldwide to specialize in plant-based food. So our story began way back in 1980. Here in West Flanders as an innovative and philanthropic idea that's now flourished into an international plant-based tour de force that Alpro is today, present in over 50 countries and championing dietary change. From day one, we had a very single-minded purpose: to pioneer healthier eating and sustainable living. This was always in our DNA and still remains the driving force in the business today. And as part of Danone, Alpro can play an increasingly important role in fueling this worldwide food revolution, actually powered by a new generation of consumers who are more than ever aware of what they eat, what they buy, and where their food comes from. This shift is significant because it signals a coming of age for plant-based eating, as millions of people become more aware of the health and the environmental benefit of adding more plants to their diet. And that's been made possible through Alpro's commitment to create new and tasty plant-based products, from the humble beginning of the soya drink, right through now to a wide range of delicious plant-based alternatives to yogurt, cream, desserts, ice cream, as well as a variety of different ingredients. Our portfolio has tripled in the last 10 years. We've now over 120 products across the range, and innovation lies at the very heart of what we are and what we do. Because bringing new ideas and new taste experiences has broadened the appeal and the reach of plant-based eating. It's made it more normal. It's given people more opportunity to try different plants in their everyday food and drink choices. So it's no longer a default choice for those who have dietary intolerances, but a positive, conscious choice for all those who are motivated by a healthier and more sustainable lifestyle. And ladies and gentlemen, who isn't motivated by that? In order to make it possible, we continue to invest in our European production facilities. Over 30 million euros invested this year, and more to come in Belgium, at this site in Wevelgem, as well as the site in the UK in 2021. We'll increase our cup facility here. We'll increase our 1 litre drinks capacity in the UK to meet the ever-growing demand and to fulfill our innovation ambitions. So look, I'm delighted to welcome Emmanuel Faber, our CEO of Danone. It gives me a great honor and a great privilege on this very special day when we are going to talk about launching something very specific for Alpro, to welcome Emmanuel. I give you the word, Emmanuel.
Thank you so much, Sue, for the warm welcome to all of you, my friends. It's a great pleasure for me to be with you, Mr. Meyer. Thank you so much for being with us. We are in your home place, and proudly so today. In many ways, why are we celebrating 40 years of such a pioneering company that is Alpro? You know, for those of you who are here physically, except me, you're all wearing masks. And I think I can't start without mentioning the circumstances in which we are, because in many ways, Alpro's mission, Danone's missions, are related to the reason why we are wearing masks today. We can look at this crisis as simply something that happened by chance, you know, and that's bad luck. But the reality is that the reason this virus came first into contact with the people that then spread it was for reasons that are deeply related in the way we live, in the way we act, in the way we built our economies for decades. The fact that we have deforested vast zones and areas for monocropping agriculture, the fact that today urban lands are depleting the natural spaces, have condensed the wildlife biodiversity into places where they tended to be very remote from where lots of people were living, and now they are getting much closer. And that's how that virus came into contact with human beings. But then the reason that contact became a pandemic is because that virus took the planes, took the boats, the ships, the trains, the taxis, the metros that we're using, the mobility that stopped in the crisis. And the reason we're having essentially a digital event today is because of that. So that virus became a crisis because of the way we live, because of the way we organize ourselves. And we are basically doing this in a way that does not take nature into account, or is actually killing nature in many ways. So this whole idea that we won't be able to recover sustainably from this crisis if we do not deal differently with nature is fundamental to what we do, and fundamental basically also to the recommendations that we're putting to the governments with whom we're working, including in the EU, to make sure that these recovery plans are about also ecology and social inclusion, because these are the both topics that will ultimately kill democracies. So the whole notion that we are living in ways that are beyond the planet boundaries is absolutely crucial to this crisis. And I have to say, at Danone, the notion of planet boundaries is critical to what we do. Our framework of action is simple. It's one planet, one health. There is only one planet, there is only one health. The two are related. We won't be able to deal with our human health if we do not start by dealing with the planet's health. It's as simple as that. And this virus is an incredible, unfortunate, dramatic example of this. So if you look at science today, there are many, many recent reports and scientific evidence that we need to change the way the food system works. The food system works in a way that is way beyond what the planet can sustainably provide for us to feed ourselves. The reports recently of FAO, of the Eat Lancet, of the EU, are showing very clearly that we need to shift the way we eat and drink. It's very clear. The pandemic has shown that right after healthcare system and support, what governments needed to enforce absolutely was the continuity of food supply. Suddenly, food supply became a huge topic, whereas it wasn't 5 months ago, and it was not even for the last 20 years in many countries, not in all, but in many countries. We took food for granted. It was processed by nice brands, nice companies. They would give us the right food. We would buy it at the local shop, and that was that. No, food is going to be a fight for sustainability, a fight for health, a fight for the choice of what kind of agriculture do I want to support, what kind of business models do I want to support, what kind of companies do I want to support. Do I trust these or not? So the notion in this crisis of food sovereignty has been fundamental. We've been working with the EU multilaterals. We've been working with the French government, with many governments, about maintaining the food supply chains available for people during the first months of lockdowns, very actively, day after day, because this is what was at stake. The food system is not prepared to face the pandemic that we have, not in the long term. So we need to change. And the recommendations are very simple. We need to eat better and less meat. That will translate into lower diabetes, lower non-communicable diseases over a long period of time. And there is evidence that by 2040, Europe can be fully sovereign in terms of protein intake, instead of importing protein from Latin America mostly, or Canada and others, soy included, by the way, completely depleting these imports if we significantly reduce the consumption of meat. We will free space in the fields in Europe for regenerative agriculture instead of monocropping large animal feed surfaces today that are depleting the soils and not making a future for the next generation of farmers. So if we shift our diets toward flexitarian diets, more plant-based, less meat-based proteins, we can reduce by 50% the greenhouse gas emissions of agriculture in Europe. We can reduce by 90% the imports of proteins, 90% the imports of fertilizers, nitrogen-based fertilizers, avoid the loss of water in over-irrigation all over the place in Europe. And guess what? We will, on one side, get 10% of the surface in Europe back into wild biodiversity. We won't need the use of 10% of the surfaces that we are using today, relieving that to nature, to lakes, to forests, to, again, biodiversity. And on the other side, we will reduce very significantly the healthcare budget of an aging Europe that will not face the same non-communicable diseases that we are facing today, obesity, diabetes, and others. This is the project of Alpro. It's as simple as that. This company started on that basis. And we're 40 years later. We are super happy that from being a family company, Alpro is now part of the Danone family. It's totally aligned on the project of Danone, and that's why, personally for me, it made so much sense to be with you this morning, because we are celebrating 40 years of a company that's really driving these planetary diets that we need to create for the overall benefit of all of us here. So Sue and the team, thank you so much for your leadership.
Thanks, Emmanuel. Let's see if I can just take this off while I'm standing here, because you'll have more chance of hearing me, I think. Okay. Hopefully that works, yes? Super. Yeah, it is a very big privilege, I think, to have to be involved in such an organization, such a company. And I know that we are playing a significant part, our part, in helping Danone lead that worldwide food revolution. Because food, as Emmanuel says, has such an enormous impact on our ecological footprint. It's way beyond what we see on the plate. That's better. How our food is grown, sourced, and produced impacts our planet. So, as we've heard, today our planet is being challenged through deforestation. Do you hear me well? Yeah, okay, sorry. And farming practices that's leaving our soil impoverished and reducing biodiversity. There is a growing consensus across the world, as we've heard, that a shift is needed if we are indeed to feed a future population of 10 billion people in a healthy and sustainable way. So this was the statement made by the Eat Lancet Commission, also supported by the FAO and the WHO, the World Health Association. They brought together 37 of the world's leading scientists, spanning 16 countries. So it wasn't just a small group of people, but absolutely a group of well-respected scientists. And to address that very question, so if we transform our eating habits and stay within the planet's boundaries, then we can feed the world healthy food that ensures that planet Earth is here today and remains here for the generations to come. And I think for all of us who have children and grandchildren, that really touches our hearts about making sure that our planet is here for those to enjoy. So how do we do it? What have we got to do in order to make that happen? We have to commit to the planetary plate. So simply put, to a diet with more plant-based products, whether that's whole grains, whether that's legumes, whether that's fruit, vegetables, nuts. And then fewer animal products, less meat. And that these products are making sure these food products are sustainably grown, sourced, and produced, with ultimate respect for the planet, keeping both us as human beings and indeed the planet fit. Because today we know that over 2 billion adults are obese. We've got an aging population that's eating a diet that revolves around low-quality protein, excessive sugar, saturated fat, and salt. So the health of planet Earth and its people is genuinely at risk. And if we wanted any reference on that, as Emmanuel said, standing here with masks, being in this set of circumstances, really focuses our mind. So it's got to be time for a change. And that's why today I'm so very proud to say, on the anniversary of the 40th birthday for Alpro, we're going to launch our new health and sustainability pledge. It's called Feeding Our Future with Plants. Simple. Feeding our future with plants. Using the incredible power of food to transform our lives and our shared future. Realizing the planetary plate, of course, will take commitment. A commitment to respect our planet's resources and use them more wisely. A commitment to reduce and improve our packaging. And I know that's a very hot topic, particularly here in this site in Wevelgem. And a continued commitment to make plant-based goodness available and accessible to all. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is our promise. We want to do business in a way that means we leave virtually no footprint behind us, and where possible, try to leave the planet in a better place than where we started. Our ambition is to have zero impact on the planet, to be carbon neutral, and have all of our packaging 100% recyclable. Now, we've already made a lot of progress in reducing that footprint. We source over 60% of our soya beans in Europe as close as possible to the factory where they're made. So in Belgium and in France, we now see that. We source 100% of our standard soya beans in France, right next to the plant in France. And of course, it goes without saying, our soya beans are 100% sustainable. We don't have any GMO. We don't buy them from any deforested areas. Never from the rainforest. We never did. We don't today. We never will. We've reduced our energy usage by over 50%, and we've actively lowered the sugar levels in our products by 12% in the last decade. But you know what? our work is never done. It's not done now, it's never done, and we strive to do more. So we need to go further, and that's why today we're setting out our concrete commitments for 2025 in line with Danone's One Planet, One Health mission. So we've got 3 commitments that we're going to, that are going to protect our planet. The first commitment, first and foremost, to improve how we source and cultivate our ingredients. Now, we've always sourced sustainably, but we want to take that further. We want to work more closely with our farmers to improve soil quality, reduce our water usage, and preserve and restore biodiversity. We're going to start with soya and almond. Those are our 2 most important ingredients. And then we're going to partner with several farmer cooperatives to introduce regenerative agriculture, trialing new farming methods, in particular, like reducing or working with them in the almond orchards. Secondly, we will strive to have all of our products in a plant-based or recycled pack that is 100% recyclable. Now, today, 73% of our drink cartons are made from plant-based materials. And for those of you that haven't had the chance, please have a look at the cartons and the products on the table. You will see we've made a big commitment in talking about the fact that they are made from plant-based material. 76% today recyclable. We saved 4,000 tons of carbon by wrapping our plant-based drinks in cartons made from plants. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? But we won't stop until we reach 100%. That's our commitment to 2025. And to make sure that we tell you that we mean business, we're actually going to have a breakthrough next year where we launch our first paper-based cup in the plant here in Wevelgem for our plant-based alternatives to yogurt. That is a remarkable step forward, and I'm very proud today to be able to share that with you. That breakthrough, of course, will mean we will think about how we roll that out to the rest of the portfolio. So, getting our sourcing and packaging right is great, but it's not the full story. It also has to start with our own, very own operations. So our third commitment, ladies and gentlemen, is to make sure that we reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 30% and have at least half of our energy from renewable sources. Now, that's a big step towards our ambition to be carbon neutral. We're also passionate about limiting our water usage. The food system actually uses a lot of water, as we well know, so it's a very important message. We'll reduce our consumption by 60%, and we will introduce here in Wevelgem a reusable water system to actually recycle that water. So 2 out of our 3 factories, we will make that commitment next year. And in parallel, we want to make more plant-based products from more sustainably sourced ingredients available to lots of people. We know that if we offer variety, it increases product trial and usage. It makes plant-based products more familiar, more normal, more accessible. So we promise to continue to positively improve our positive nutrition of our products. I think that's something that already Alpro has been famous for. But by 2025, 50% of our products will be recognized as a source of fiber, thus helping to lower the risk of heart disease and bowel cancer. In addition, over 65% of our products will be low or zero sugar content or contain only sugars from fruit, and more than 70% of our products will be low in saturated fat. So you see, we're putting our money, as it were, where our mouth is. We're very clear about our positive nutrition promise. And then we're going to take it a stage further. We're going to label our products on the front of pack, helping people make sure that they can make those positive, conscious choices. We will pledge to communicate about our ingredients, sourcing and processing in a simple and transparent way on pack and on our website to help people be better informed, because we know that there's a very clear link to educating and providing consumers with information and the choices that they make. Making plant-based foods available and accessible to all is crucial if we're going to change the way the world eats for the better. there are still many locations and geographies where healthier choices are frankly less apparent. We'll continue to work with our customers and our partners in those countries to make plant-based products available and accessible to everyone. Equally important is to integrate plant-based foods into the dietary guidelines and to encourage policymakers to provide this enabling framework and impetus to accelerate the shift to the planetary plate. Together with ENSA, the European Association for Plant-Based Foods, Alpro will continue its efforts to keep this topic right at the top of the agenda of governments and policymakers. So, 40 years ago, we launched our first plant-based product. They were made for people at that time who had a dietary intolerance or a dairy allergy. What started as a crazy dream to preserve the planet through giving people healthy food turned into, quite honestly, a worldwide plant-based revolution. But it was a humble beginning. I have to say, having worked with the Belgians for some time, quite in keeping with the modesty of the Belgian population, and in particular here in West Flanders. But you should be very proud, not only as a nation, but also of one of the employers that is a significant employer in this region. The story of Alpro is one to be exceptionally proud of. We became the leader in the plant-based field. We've taken our responsibility to continue to protect planet Earth and its people very seriously, because sustainability is in here. It's part of our DNA. It always was, it always will be. And today, we take that commitment a step further. So it gives me great pleasure and great pride to give you the Alpro pledge today. Our promise to lead the way to a planetary plate by 2025, to transform our eating habits and stay within the planet's boundaries so that we can feed the world healthy food and ensure that planet Earth is here for many, many generations to come. So, we're ready for the future. We're ready to feed our future with plants, because the more people that embrace plants, the more impact we have on our planet and our health. I hope you're also ready to join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Emmanuel. Great speeches. Just as a summary for the audience, a short video, only 2 minutes, with a summary about where the pledge stands for, and then we move directly into the questions that you have. Short video like said. Now the floor is yours. As journalists, you had to be very silent. It's now your moment to raise your questions to the two people in front, so Sue Garfitt and Emmanuel, who are very happy to take them. There are mics for you guys. Marie?
Hello. Some people cannot afford to buy healthy products because it's too expensive for them. So how are you going to address those people with your own products in the near future?
Let me take that question, and then Emmanuel can add if he wants to. I think it's a very fair point. We've done an awful lot of work to make sure that we've got products in different formats, different product formats, and therefore at different price points. Remember, we don't set the price in the store. The retailer, our customers do that. But we're very conscious of bringing a whole range of different products to the table. It's also important to recognize, I think, that our products are an incredibly important source of protein, vitamins, minerals, that we also fortify the products with.
Yeah, maybe, thank you for the question. Maybe I can add a few points on this. It's quite impressive to see that if you look at the very long term, decades ago, plant-based was essentially the way people would eat and drink. It's only with the rise of the middle class, in a way, in mostly the Western world, that we have seen meat consumption rise to where it is today. And we are very clear that in the way meat is produced and cattle is raised in a number of the so-called developed world, this is an unsustainable way, both from a planet and from a health standpoint. So one of the topics is that beyond the question of the price, the question is the education and the understanding that we do not need to eat as much meat-based protein as we do today. And if you look at this in a way where how people are balancing their food budget, it's a way of shifting from pretty expensive meat products to more plant-based. And as Sue said, it might be our product or it might be other things. It can be legumes, it can be, produce, so basically fresh. And this does not mean that overall the budget is going to be different. Now, I think you're still raising a very valid point in the sense that it's quite clear for us that the current pandemic will come with, and we have started to see that, a significant decrease in economic revenues through the crisis. For governments, obviously, for economies, and therefore for people. So one of the key questions will be, during this period of time, how people are actually adjusting their overall disposable income. It's quite interesting to see that during the lockdowns, some food habits have changed for the better. As I said earlier, food that looked like the only important aspect was price, and for the rest, I trust the brand, I trust the banner when it comes to the retail private labels, or I trust the brand when it comes to a brand like us. People have started to rethink that and to reconsider. I think you will see probably more cooking than eating out and buying readily available food in the future. In a number of geographies, cooking time have stopped declining, sometimes and on a long-term period. If you look at the last 5-10 years even, so it's plateauing. And it's if we are going through, unfortunately, a phase where, forced or not, people will have more time or less time at work on the job, it's quite likely that there will be more time for food. And in this case, Alpro has also a whole range And that's one of our strategies at Alpro and at Danone, actually, which is to address the fact that people will turn back to prepare their own food. So we may come with ingredients, plant-based ingredients, nutritionally balanced, fortified if need be, etc., that will incorporate into actually a food that may take more time for people, but less price overall. The whole question will be that in our food system, in this world in which we are on the go all over the day, we have traded time against price in food. So I think all of this needs to be incorporated in the broader view to provide an answer to your point, which is, I think, is an absolutely valid point.
Precise on the investments for Wevelgem on jobs and the amount that will be invested in the coming 2 or 5 years?
Yeah, so as I said before, so we will invest, essentially we will invest 30 million. That investment in the plant is split 30 million euros. Yes, 30, yeah. That investment is split between here and the UK. The big commitment in this plant next year will be the introducing of the new paper-based cup change that we will make. And out of that 30 million, we will invest 2/3 here. So that gives you an indication, I think, of the importance of this plant. It's the largest plant we have. So, and as I said, we're the biggest employer in this region, which many of you know. And we will continue to invest in this plant. That's been the history for the last 5 to 7 years here. And we're very excited about that. That's really to keep up with demand, and it's also to keep up with making sure that we can bring some new innovations with different packaging, using and updating our packaging into more sustainable sources. So, to be honest, if you look at the job creation, as I said here, we were at 16 people 40 years ago. We're now overall in the total business 1,500. So we have continued to double the workforce here over that period of time. And to be honest, I don't see that necessarily stopping, given the growth that we're seeing. Welcome. Nice question, thank you. It's good to be an employer that actually is growing and giving employment to people.
More plenary questions? Perhaps that I just look to a virtual question in the meantime. Let's see. It's on my mobile. So I have a question from the virtual participants. A question of Andy of Just Food. Is soy likely to be overtaken as a plant-based milk ingredient by nuts or oats, for example?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Look, I think if you see the array of ingredients today, what started life here and the plant-based category in soya, we have continued to add more ingredients. So almond is an incredibly important part of our range in all of our countries. Clearly some more than others, depending on tastes in those markets. We see also other nut variants being important, and we do see the growth of oat. So if we were to project forward, there is a growth trajectory on each one of those ingredients, and they all play a slightly different role. Yeah? They add variety to the diet. They're used by consumers in different applications, in different ways. So there's a role, I think, for all of the ingredients.
Can I add on this? Because that's a question that we are all receiving as a company, including with our plant-based business in the US, where essentially the trajectory for plant-based diets, the new way of plant-based diets, post-meat, I would say, not pre-meat, started about the same time in 1983 with a brand called Silk, which essentially was a soy, as any pioneer at that point in time was a soy based product. The soy seems to be in the current consumer trends a sort of a sleeping beauty. It has driven a huge growth over the last 20 years. And now, as you rightly explained, there is a whole broader set of ingredients that we know how to use to create the nutritious plant-based food that we're creating. Having said that, soy has absolutely fundamental, unique aspects that no other plant has. And actually, each plant is unique. But today, there's very clearly an opportunity in the long term for soy to play a role, in particular when it comes to providing lower cost, very nutritious food. It's by far the plant-based ingredient that matches best all the essential amino acids that you have in proteins. It's the richest protein of all plant-based protein. And that is I think today, an unrecognized aspect that is going to be growingly recognized by science. And my bet is that in the long term, there will be a fundamental participation of soy, despite all the growth of others, because of this unique planetary and nutritious aspect of that protein.
Yeah, I think soya is also incredibly versatile, much, much more than any of the other ingredients are. And they each have their profile, but with soy we can do an awful lot. We can make an awful lot of products, a wider range of products. And we see protein as an increasing trend, not just in the States, it's also true across Europe. So we will certainly meet that trend, surf that trend.
Unless somebody here, I have another question from a German journalist of Lebensmittelzeitung. What do the plans for plant-based products mean for the future of dairy products?
Want to tell that one, or you want me to tell that one? Yeah.
That's probably for me to answer this one. It's a very good question, and I would link it to what I just said. Maybe two things. One, we have looked at many agricultural models. We've been working with universities, with the FAO, with whom we have a strategic partnership, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN, on agricultural models. And it's very clear that there is no way we can have a sustainable agriculture anywhere in the world without cattle raising. So despite everything that I might have said earlier about meat consumption, which is true, there is no agriculture if there is no cattle raising. Animal raising is a fundamental part of the way the agricultural revenue model works, and actually even in a manner which is sustainable for the environmental aspects of agriculture themselves. There are huge ways to improve the CO2 footprint of animal farms in many ways, and that starts with actually the nutrition of the animals. Depending on what you give to ruminants, they emit more or less greenhouse gas in their ruminating process. So animal feed is a huge thing, as much as what I said about the protein sovereignty. Animal feed protein sovereignty and local feeding and grass feeding is essential to the model of cattle raising and farming. So the first block of my answer is that from an environmental standpoint, one, farmers for the next at least 5 generations will need one way or the other animal raising as a model. Second, it will be a very different animal raising than from today, and there are many ways of improving the way we deal with animals as part of agriculture. The third part is on the health, human health side. As I just mentioned, soy has a unique blend of amino acids in its protein, which makes it a truly unique plant-based, but it does not match the only protein that is considered today as protective by doctors, which is the milk casein, because the casein contains more of each of the amino acids than what we actually need. So that's by far the richest protein that we can have as human beings. So for all these reasons, I think when we work with scientists, doctors, health authorities, we continue to see both the need for absolutely bringing more plant-based in the plate, taking meat out of, or a portion of meat out of the plate, but clearly continue to have dairy, and particularly fermented dairy, which have other benefits through the bacteria and the probiotics on the gut health, which is a very important human metabolism. So that's why Danone made this particularly bold move 3 years ago to acquire a company called White Wave for 10 billion euros in the US, which had already acquired this great company, Alpro, that as a leading dairy business, we felt it was not antagonistic for us to also participate in the plant-based movement, because we are clear on the shift, but we still believe that flexitarianism will be essential versus, except for, of course, there will be people only on plant-based, that's a choice, but it's going to be a fraction of them anyway. So that balance, it's more about a balance than a mutual exclusion. Sorry, I've been long, but of course for us, it's a very important topic, and I know in Germany it's an important topic as well.
Yeah, indeed. And I think the if I give you a very clear consumer statistic, 2/3 of plant-based buyers buy more dairy. So over 60% of consumers that buy plant-based actually are large dairy buyers too, consumers too. Now, that's probably because we hear that's about the spectrum of health overall. So it's not, they're not mutually exclusive. It's not either or, it's very much and, as people add them to their diet.
And if I can add on this, I think Danone has 100 years of experience. It was born 100 years ago, 101. Our 100 years of anniversary was last year. And there is no bigger company than us when it comes to fermentation. We have a collection of strains of ferments, of nearly 3,000 of them. Some of them are being managed with the Institut Pasteur in Paris. And this richness and know-how about fermentation is one of the aspects in which there can be a cross-collaboration with the plant-based part of the family, because they are absolutely champions on plant-based, but we are absolutely champions on fermentation. And so that's another way how the dairy and the plant-based businesses can enrich each other in formulating products that are improving the health status of our consumers.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Emmanuel. I think very rich answers. Let's keep the remaining questions that you have for the interview session after the factory tour. First, you see there 2 red buttons. You have seen something that is hidden. I request Sue and Emmanuel to go into that direction, and let's discover what is behind, behind the protection. I will say 1, 2, 3.
The 1980s.
I suggest now to move to just a picture moment. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.